I'm so glad to have Monica Lacey on the podcast this week. She's a photographer and visual artist, a yoga teacher, writer, and we share a love of old upright pianos. We talked about being of service, staying true to your artistic vision, and how a creative life can feel like a chaotic one.
Art, I want you. Art, you make it pretty hard not to. And my heart is trying hard here to follow you, but I can't always tell if I ought to.
Monica, your bio says that you are driven by curiosity, service, and the pursuit of beauty in all its forms. I've certainly seen how these show up in your finished work, but I'm really curious about how they drive your artistic process.
Curiosity is probably the biggest one. Just for context, like I used to get kicked out of class in junior high and high school for asking too many questions because I was always trying to understand, like, but what does it really mean? How do things really work? Like, let's dig in deeper. So yeah, I'm kind of a serial explorer. I always want to be learning new things and trying new things. And I used to think of that as kind of the the Jack or Jill of all trades, master of none thing. That used to be kind of like a saying that I felt applied to me. And then at a certain point I was like, no, I'm actually curious and I love to explore. And that's a good thing. And it doesn't mean I'm losing something. So yeah, curiosity is a big one. Service to me is kind of about letting whatever's trying to come through you actually come through you, because I really believe that it's a gift for the world. Like, it's not really even about you. It's for everyone. So whatever is trying to, whatever, like music or writing or art or whatever that's trying to come through you, I think that there is a sort of a responsibility and a duty to bring it into the world, because it is for everyone. And I don't think we're meant to hoard it. And I think it can actually like kind of make you sick if you keep it to yourself and you don't let it out. And then, yeah, pursuit of beauty. That's I feel like I'm always chasing new forms of beauty, and I'm always looking for ways to see beauty in things that are overlooked or like discarded or sort of busted up or broken, like there's a big pile of concrete down the street and I stopped and I was like, ooh, look at those shapes, so I'm kind of always looking, trying to find ways to see through that lens, because I feel really good when I do. And when I feel like when I help other people see through that lens, they feel good. So that's part of the service too. Yeah.
How do you feel about the relationship between the artist and the viewer? Do you think about your audience while you're in the process of creating art?
Not usually, unless I'm making something for someone, which is actually kind of one of my favorite ways to work, like making a friend a birthday present or, making something often spontaneous for someone that I care about, that I know that they'll like. Like, I really enjoy that process. It's really different than a commission, which is not as fun in that way sometimes. But, but just, yeah, I think that's really the only time that I'm thinking about the end viewer. And often because like I actually don't usually know where it's going to wind up, like who, yeah, I think that's one of the things that I'm not, like, I don't think of myself as a business savvy person, really. I would love to improve in that area, but just in that I don't actually really know my market. I don't really know where it's going to wind up. And I'm forever surprised by someone seeing it and like enjoying my art. And, I feel like it's new all the time and it surprises me all the time. So,
do you think because you're a bit of a wanderer, you like to try so many different things, that your art has just it's shown in so many different ways and different mediums?
Probably, yeah. Yeah. And I do work in a lot of different media all the time. I'm starting to see I've heard it from other people, but I'm starting to see for myself like that there is a thread. There is, there is continuity there, even though sometimes I'm like, no, I'm doing this and now I'm doing this. And they're totally unrelated. But, friends who are champions of my work will be like, actually, no, there's a connection. If you look, you'll see it. And so I think my art, it often surprises me as well. Who enjoys it and what it is. Yeah.
Is there a certain medium that you're more drawn to than others? Like, is there one that really feels like a conduit, like a...
Photography has always been it always has felt like home to me. Like it was one of the earliest forms that I worked with. Like my dad gave me a beautiful old Pentax that I still have when I was 7 or 8 years old. So that was one of the first sort of like solo mediums that I was trying, where it was like me and my tool going out in the world looking for art, So yeah, photo I come back to over and over, and it's gotten to be so portable and accessible, and that's exciting to me too. That whereas I used to haul around like a big camera bag and a tripod and things like that, like I can literally have it in my back pocket now. And yeah, I'm like kind of a closet writer as well. Like writing is the other form that I always come back to, and I think probably the one that frightens me the most. Yeah, there's something really eviscerating about writing that has always been really scary to me, but also really intriguing. Like, and often actually when I'm trying to work something out for my visual practice, I write about it. I don't like draw it out. I'll write about it. So yeah, I would say photos and words are the two that are kind of like eternal for me. And then everything else is, sort of like wander and explore.
Cool.
Yeah. But that's where I come home to.
When you write, do you write poetry or just kind of all sorts of different types of
poetry and short fiction? Yeah. And I'm like working on turning some of my short fiction into scripts, like to get into some screenwriting. Because I have these characters that really want to live in the world, and I'm trying to help them do that. So, yeah, usually short stories and poetry. Yeah.
Do you feel like you learn more about yourself through any particular medium that you play with?
Anytime I paint, I usually come away with like, oh, you better work on that issue, because I think for me, it's one of the practices that feels the most kind of like loaded to me. Like it feels like doing a sport and you're surrounded by Olympians or something like that. Like and it's, it's all in my head. Like, of course anyone can go paint, but it just carries this like epic weight and pressure to me. So when I paint, and usually for me it's with ink or watercolor, I can observe myself responding to that imagined pressure and history and judgment and all the things, and just kind of like watch, how are you doing? Did you think you were doing really well? Like, how is it now that you're painting, Yeah, so I would say I learn a lot about myself when I paint. And sometimes it's positive, and sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I have some real hang-ups that I'm gonna work on and then come back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That happens to me mostly when I'm writing songs. Because I usually am like, okay, I'll write an entire song and then I'll be like, you know what that was about, right? And I read through it again. I'm like, okay, that wasn't about a fictional character in my head. That was about me working out this thing that I have to work out. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like any time that you kind of provoke the inner critic to step forward, that's, it's a chance to learn. It's often really hard, but it's a chance to really see, like, how are you doing? Like, have you made some progress on those things you were working on? Yep. Similar to seeing your family on Thanksgiving or something, like, how are you really? Yeah. Let's find out. Yeah.
Yes. Art is a good test
Mm-hmm.
of how you're doing.
Absolutely.
You say you prioritize connection and communication in your practice. Do you think that all artists are attempting to connect and communicate with others?
No, definitely not. No. I think that there's a lot of artists out there who are making really interesting work, but that is sort of intended to isolate them or even intended to like push people away. So I don't think connection is inherent in making art. Or in being a person, like you have to choose it. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, communication too. I think that there are artists who are intentionally making it difficult to understand what it is
Right.
their intention was in making the work, or even like hiding that completely. Yeah. And sort of the deeper you get into the quote unquote art world at large, like I think that the worse that gets. Where, no one understands
Yeah.
it and everyone claims to. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's funny because my thoughts on why people make art. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is that I'm like, I know why I make art and I know what it gives me, but I'm really curious because it's so different for everybody. And certainly when I paint, it's not. I don't feel like I'm trying to communicate anything with anybody. But certainly when I write songs, I do. Those are my way of connecting to people.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
sometimes too, like when I wrote that in my bio, I was also thinking about connecting to and communicating with like the materials I use and like the places that I work, like the landscape where I'm, even if I'm just out like taking photos, I'm thinking about, okay, well, I'm here by this river. Like, how can I talk to this river? How can I connect to this river? How can I ask permission? How can I make this a relationship and not just like tourism,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, I'm also thinking about that in just within the practice and not exclusively with the audience. Yeah.
And how has your artwork changed or evolved over time? Are you still inspired by the same things that you were 20 years ago?
That's an interesting question. I feel like every now and then I'll be at someone's house and see like a piece of art I made, more than a decade ago or something and be like, did I make that? Like kind of, I feel like I've traveled a lot within my practice. There are things like I was obsessed with abandoned houses for a little while. Like I could not stop photographing them and tracking them down. And even though that's for a little while, it was exclusively what I was working with, like only abandoned houses. I was so fascinated by them. But I still, slam on the brakes when I drive by one. I'm like, I gotta get a picture. Even though I'm not sort of in pursuit of them as much these days. There are some elements that have persisted. Like paper. I love paper. I'm like kind of a paper collector and I love to like smell it and touch it and like all the different textures and paper and ink and photo. Collage too has like stayed kind of in my realm. And I find it really inspiring. Just that way of like receiving the world and rearranging it until it makes sense to you. That's kind of what I think of with collage. Of like, well, what if we just saw it like this instead? It's reshaping.
How do you know when you're done of something like a collage? I mean, I've done them, and to me, at a certain point, you're just kind of like, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
And you just kind of stop.
But yeah, it's like a little, I don't know, it's a little kind of like bell rings in my stomach kind of thing. I'm just like, ding, like it's finished. And that I would say that happens if I'm feeling centered and I'm in the flow and I'm like letting that creativity come through me. But if I'm, you know, there's a difference between like making something and trying to make something. And if I'm like trying to make something, then like I can work it and work it and work it and it'll never be done because I'm not really listening.
Right.
Yeah. I like the idea that that everything has already happened and we're just remembering it. You know, this, yeah. So I think about that when I'm making art as well. Like it already exists. Like it was made ages ago. You just have to remember what it looks like, you know? So if I am in the zone, then I can feel that little like ding when it's finished. And again, it's interesting to observe yourself when you're not in the flow and you're just pushing and pushing and pushing and it's like not going well, but you won't stop.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and just, yeah, I feel like as I get older, I'm better at recognizing those moments. I'm like, okay, time for a walk, time to call a friend, time to like have a bite to eat or a cup of coffee or something, you know, but like walk away.
Stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Do you like, I know that you teach, and I mean, I feel like reading about all the things that you do online, I was like, when does this person have time to make art while they're centered and in the flow, you know? Like,
Yeah.
how do you do
That's
it
a
as
good
a
question.
mom and a, you know, wife and a artist and a teacher, and
Yeah.
you have a gallery in your front yard?
Yeah. Lots of things. Yeah. And another one at the Guild downtown now too. I find it challenging. I'm like, I talk about this with my husband, Devin, a lot, who's also an entrepreneur and a musician, sound engineer. But where we're like really bad about ever taking any time off, but also really bad about ever like having really dedicated studio time. So it's this weird entrepreneur thing of always working and never working at the same time. There's a lot of distractions having a home studio also. You know, I'll be in the middle of something and then, oh, right, the laundry, or oh, I better just go take the cat out, or, you know, little things come up and pull me away. I would say more often than not, what happens is it like the need to create builds up until I have like a big explosion where I'm like, everything is canceled and now it's just a studio day. So I had one of those yesterday, in fact, and usually when I have those moments, I make so much work. Like I'll, you know, just make like piles and piles and piles of work and then kind of have time away from it again for a little while. So I tend to work in bursts of intensity, and I really admire these artists who are like, well, I have studio hours every day from this time to this time. Like, well, not me, but that sounds nice. So yeah, I tend to work in like intensives. Yeah.
Yeah. Seize the time.
Yeah. And then I'm really prolific when it's almost like a water pressure thing, you know? It builds and then when it comes out it's like a fire hose.
Yeah. Last year I didn't, you know, I obviously have a lovely creative space here, but I wasn't doing a lot of writing. And then at the end of the summer, last fall, I did a artist residency at the Surrey Show Hall for a week, and I just got to hang out at the theater with their beautiful piano. And the songs just came flowing out, and I purposely didn't write anything for, you know, a few weeks beforehand, and they came flowing. So it's, I think when you understand how you work, that makes it a lot easier to do that kind of thing, because your brain's already doing it. You just have to let it out.
Yeah, you're like in sort of pre-production, and then you go into production. Residencies is another way that I do work. I usually do an artist residency every year, like a couple of weeks, and just make a ton of work while I'm there. And then that becomes kind of the fodder for like finished pieces all year long.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, like I'll experiment and make just like so much work and then sort of begin to assemble it the rest of the year. I'm like, oh, maybe this fits together like this, and maybe this is this piece. And
cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that your art practice informs your yoga practice or vice versa?
Mm, I think that my yoga practice supports my art practice. Like I've been practicing yoga every day for 20 years this year.
Mm.
And I used to practice at different times of day, but in the last maybe 5 to 7 years, I've exclusively practiced in the morning. So it's the first thing I do. I get up and I do a practice and I do yoga and I meditate. And that helps me be in the zone I need to be in to even like accept I am an artist and this is my life. Because sometimes you wake up and you're like, is it true? Do I really do that? Should I do that? Does anybody care? So
Oh, yeah.
it helps me get back to my center like consistently. And that's where I need to be to like have this crazy life because it's so unpredictable and really hard, as you know. So yeah. So it supports me. It's like a central pillar foundation that supports me in that. And it has the relationship between the two practices has gone the other way as well, where I've taught like yoga and creativity workshops and like help encouraged people on their own journey of letting their work come through them into the world via yoga classes I was teaching and that kind of thing. Yeah.
For listeners who are interested in your work, how can they see it and how can they support you?
Well, I do have a website, which is monicalacey.com, which I have been trying to update for like 4 or 5 years. So there's some stuff on there. But I would say the most sort of recent work of mine is on my Instagram, at Dance the Changes. And pretty much anything that's on there, I do as like prints too. So I do prints in custom sizes of any of my work, which is kind of one of the main things I do. And I know I get new people asking every year, but I make a calendar every year, limited edition that always sells out. And
it's friggin' gorgeous.
Yeah. So I do want people to know that they can order anytime. They can pre-order like as early as now if they know they want in. So
there you go.
But yeah, through my website or through my Instagram is the best place to find me. And I'm also open to people just reaching out and being like, what are you working on? Can I see? And I'm happy to have those conversations.
Cool.
Yeah.
A question I should have asked a few minutes ago, because it was a good segue, is why do you think you keep doing it if sometimes you wake up and you say, is this worth it? Should I be doing this? What do you think drives you to keep living the crazy life you live?
I often don't really feel like I have a choice. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but I've just been making art as long as I can remember. Like my childhood home is covered in like murals I painted on the walls and stuff I made. And I don't think I could stop if I wanted to. It's often feels like, there's not a lot of security in life as a self-employed artist, but I've never, not been able to put food on the table. I've like always, something always comes up. Somebody always like extends an invitation for, a gig or a commission or like, hey, can I buy some of this? And it has consistently proven that it will work out. The support has been consistent from friends and strangers and the universe at large. So that's a good reason to keep going. And yeah, I don't know that I could stop if I wanted to. Like just it like I was saying earlier, I think I would be quite ill if I didn't make art. Like I think I'd be really angry and unwell. So yeah. I feel better when I do it. So yeah, sometimes that's the only reason and it's enough.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm hearing from people is that they, it's what makes them feel like themselves or it's how they know that they're alive. And And personally, I've also noticed that when I feel like I shouldn't be doing something and I don't for a while, I do get ill.
Yeah.
And then also, if I want to continue doing it, something shows up to show me that I should be still doing it.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So-
That's always when like somebody's like, "Hey, I heard or saw that thing that you made and I loved it." And it, you know, sometimes it's like quite moving, like those moments when you get
Mhm.
reminded, the universe comes and is like, "Don't forget, it matters."
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it matters to someone out there, and keep going, you know.
Mhm.
I love when
Mhm.
those moments come up.
What do you
Yeah.
think the world would be like if everybody recognized their own creativity and made art in their own unique ways? Every single person.
Oh, that's like it's like my whole body relaxed when you said that. That's what it would be like.
I know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of what we have in the world is because of, you know, the architects and the engineers and the people like who did, you know, express their creativity through a medium that we
Mhm.
see all around us, you know.
Yep.
I think it would be a very peaceful world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that there would be so many of us. I think there might not be so many humans if people were creating in other ways. That's maybe a weird thing to say, but
Yeah. I didn't think of that, but I agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think some of overpopulation is actually like a longing to bring forth something into the world, like anything.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Hmm.
I think sometimes that's the only option is like, well, can bring babies.
Yeah.
But it would be really interesting to see what would be created. And
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're creating regularly, there's less yearning too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it satisfies something, it taps you into something. So there's less need for stuff and stimuli at every second.
Yeah.
Because
Fake things.
Yeah.
And chemicals and yeah.
Yeah, you're just not as needy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And more loving, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, I regularly remind myself to notice the beauty. You know, if I'm feeling down and I'm taking the bus to work or something in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, the clouds. And then I just like stop, you know, and stare at them. And just like 1,000 little moments like that throughout the day. And I'm like, notice the beauty, find the joy. And that's what you find through art.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that don't have that in their lives and could
Yeah.
potentially.
In a way, I think it's hard to fully know yourself unless you know the creative things that are trying to come through you.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? Like it sort of breaks my heart when someone says, you know, has never let themselves sing, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, has just never even like
Well, how many people
allowed
have
that
come
to
to you
open
and
up?
been like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I wish I could paint," or "I wish I
Yeah.
could take photos like you do," or "I wish
Yeah.
I..."
Yeah.
Go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's something I really wish people understood is that it's not like jumping off a cliff. It's more like opening a door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's scary until you do it and then it becomes essential.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this podcast. I think it's really exactly what we need right now on this little island.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I wondered what would be the worth of my words in the world. If I write them and then recite them, are they worth being heard? Just because I like them, does that mean that I should mic them and see what might unfurl? And I think of the significance of my opinions here. Is it significant to be giving them? Does anybody care? Just because I'm into this, does that mean that I should live I pondered the point of my art in this life. If I make it, will someone take it and think that it's genuine? Would they be glad that I did, 'cause they got something good out of it? Would they leave me and be any more inspired? And I question the outcome of the outpouring of myself. If I tell everyone my stories, would this keep me healthy and well? Would it give me purpose into this world, some sort of service? Is it worth it? How could I tell? Art, I want you. Art, you make it pretty hard